Okay, this is where we begin. Hi, welcome back to Alchemy with Sinhani. Welcome to Alchemy with Sinhani. If you're new, I'm your host Sinhani in all glory. And today is a Sunday. There's something about the energy of Sunday that I want to talk about. So, trauma aside, like childhood trauma aside, Sundays were traumatic for me because that was the day when shit got really fucked up because that was the day everyone was at home, right? And my only little escape from my toxic childhood house that I grew up in, I was a single child with toxic, narcissistic birth parents that I lived with that didn't want to live with each other either. That still don't, but somehow they do. I don't know. Okay, don't ask me. But I knew I had to get out of there. Like any excuse I had, I would take it to go out. And I'm an Indian, I'm a South Indian. So trauma runs deep in South Indian lines and South Indian families, just in general. Like South Indian children all have the same patterns and conditioning of childhood trauma. Okay. And I can talk about this in terms of quote unquote trauma, or I can talk about this in terms of energy. Like, if you were born into a South Indian family, you know what the fuck I'm talking about, okay? And if you were born into a South Indian family, most likely, chances are, you had a traumatic childhood. Like, really fucked up. Um, there is this spiritual leader, guide, mentor who's very popular, known as Swan. And she talks about this as the ragdoll theory or the doll theory. The doll theory is what I think she calls it, but I think a more apt name for this is like the ragdoll theory. Essentially, she talks about how, from a more energetic, spiritual perspective, we can understand that most of that generation that is currently aged anywhere between their late, I wouldn't say late 30s, maybe I would say like 40s to like 60s, okay? That generation is what I'm talking about. The generation before the millennials, but after the boomers, like, are they Gen Y? I think that's the generation, okay? Like, basically, the generation that my birth parents are from. And if you're around my age, if you're in your 20s, you're a Gen Z kid, or you're a late millennial, you know what I'm talking about. So essentially, she talks about how that generation is actually the most fucking traumatized because of societal conditioning in terms of specifically go to school, get a degree, get a job, start a family, work till you're 60, and then retire. That generation specifically. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And she delves a little deeper into this specific conditioning to talk about how this expectation was placed onto them, and thus, they got their degrees, they got their jobs, and they started families simply because everyone in society started families. Like it was the expectation, it was the norm. Like if you didn't have a child, something was fucked up with you. If you weren't married, something was wrong with you. And don't get me wrong, it's not like this conditioning doesn't still exist. But our generation is a little like, fuck you, right? Like, seriously, like, Gen Z is fucking savage. Like, I have to fucking come out here and say it. Like, I know there are millennials listening to this. Millennials love me. I love millennials, okay? But guys, like, millennials, bro, like, why? Are why are you so sheepish? Like, I think a lot of Gen Z can be very sheepish too, but we're a little more rebellious than the millennials, right? And no, genuinely, like millennials, like there is nothing wrong with you if you don't follow into the footsteps of your parents or the expectations that society has laid out for you. Like my generation, I think genuinely, we get this. We're like, we're a little phased out by it. We're a little fucked up. We all have a little trauma. But we can at least be aware that we're a little traumatized, I genuinely believe that. Like our generation, Gen Z genuinely is traumatized, absolutely. But it's like we are willing to accept that we are traumatized. The millennials are just in denial. In general is what I'm saying. I don't mean to stereotype here, but it's easier to speak this way to give you a sense of what I'm trying to say. I don't want to stereotype, honestly. I know every individual can be their own individual. There are a lot of millennials who are very rebellious as well. And yeah, I'm not talking about those people. Okay. Yeah. You get what I'm saying. I'm just trying to I'm trying to make a point here. I'm trying to develop the argument, and so to develop the argument, I am having to be a little stereotypical, even though I don't really like it as much as you don't really like listening to it. Yeah. So I know there's also this belief that we all carry that our generation is the best generation, no matter which generation you belong to. No, my generation is fucked up. Gen Z is fucked up. Like we're fucked up. Like I'll say that. I'll come out and say it. Like no, we're fucked up. The only thing I'm trying to say is Gen Z, like we realize and understand that we're fucked up, and we're willing to say, okay, we're fucked up. But millennials in general, I don't mean to stereotype again, are fucked up, but they're not willing to come out and accept that, is all I'm trying to say. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that being said, what Teal Swan talks about as the doll theory is essentially this idea, right? This expectation of society that was placed onto the generation before the millennials, that came before the millennials, which I will call Gen Y. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free to do so. Correct me if I'm wrong at any point. This is all a perspective. This is my perspective. So again, it's like, there may be some things that are more generally accepted, in which case correct me. If they're not so generally accepted, please provide your perspective, is what I would say. But everything is a perspective. Even the more generally accepted, you know, perspectives, norms are just that. They are just perspectives. And this is exactly the point. Like, the point is that even something that is a norm, quote unquote, is a perspective. And that's something I feel like the doll theory is what was trying to encapsulate when Teal Swan said it. So she talks about how this expectation of having children, having a job, having children. This sounds like the American dream, right? Like, yeah, the classic one. Yeah, go to America. This is something immigrants can relate to, or Asians and Indians, of course, uh, can definitely relate to. Go to America, get married, get a job in America, um, work. like crazy, face discrimination and stay quiet, start a family, and then fuck them up to follow that as well. Somehow figure out your nationality and visa, get that green card, have those children with those American passports. Like, bitch, what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh, and did I forget to mention? Absolutely, yes, buy a home and start that family and have two children and have a dog. Yes, or two dogs to make it worse. Why bring the dogs into this, bro? Like, not cats, because no, you can't fuck with cats, you know? Like, the American dream is all about dogs. And like, bro, I carry golden retriever energy. I'm literally wearing a yellow t-shirt today as I record this. I, I feel like I carry both the energy of dogs and cats. So you know, I get both. Like, someone once told me I'm a cat, and I at first I was like, no, because I was like, also this thing about being a dog person, about or a cat person. I'm both. I'm both. I love them both. Like, yeah. But I was not always like this. I was taught to hate cats. But I always liked cats, you know, like I would pet cats and cats would just naturally like be attracted to me. And I didn't realize how much of an energetic thing that was. Like I remember growing up, there was this cat in the apartment I grew up in. I think she was a stray, so you know, she used to be outside. And she would just come to me naturally. And then she would like sit on my lap and stuff. Like whenever I was hanging around the common spaces in the apartment. Like she would just come and sit on my lap and I would pet her and you know, it would be a thing. Like she would sit on my lap and fall asleep for like hours on end, like 2, 3 hours. And I couldn't move, you know, like that's another thing with pets, right? When they're falling asleep on you, it's like you know, you don't want to move because you don't want to wake them up, but they don't actually mind it. That's something I realized as well. Yeah. So I wouldn't move and my legs would get tired and my legs would fall asleep and she would be sleeping on my lap and I would just pet her because I wouldn't know what else to do. Like this was a time before phones were a thing, you know. Yeah, so this was a time before um I don't know, like before video games were a thing. Like this was a time when, as children, we used to go out to play, to hang out. Yeah, like remember when we left our homes? Like we just went out to play, and like there were other kids that also went out to play, and so we would all play like whatever the fuck it was that we would play. Yeah, like that was a shit, bro. Like when did this thing get like so complicated, right? Like I hardly barely see any of the new kids like outside. Like even if it is for a sport, very rarely, man. Very rarely. I always played sports as a kid. Like I mean, video games did become popular, computers became popular, and so I believe like up to the age of maybe 10 or 11 or even up to uh 12 years I was more of like that outdoorsy, like I would just go out. And after that, I started playing basketball competitively in high school. So, excuse me, that was my way of like, you know, going out and playing. Like genuinely, I had like big dreams and big goals when it came to like basketball. Like at some point, I wanted to play in the WNBA, and you know, I was a really tall kid, and then I just stopped growing. Uh, yeah, that happened. That happened. And no, you don't need to be tall to play basketball because then I stopped growing and I was still playing basketball. So, yeah, no, you don't need to be tall to play basketball, but it does help. It really does fucking help. And like, I was like this height. I was like 5'2" when I was 10 years old. So I was one of the tallest kids. And then I stopped growing. So I was 5'2" when I was 11 years old. I was 5'2" when I was 12 years old. I was 5'2" when I was 13 years old. I was 5'2" when I was 14 years old. And this is when, like, you know, the other girls, like, started growing as well. I think I just, like, I just hit puberty a little early. That happened. That is a thing. Like that is genuinely a thing. I hit puberty really fucking early. Like none of my classmates had hit puberty. Like women, girls hit puberty faster than boys do in general. But like the average age, in medical science for like generally accepted medical science for girls to hit puberty is like 12 or 14. Like it used to be something like it used to be 14. And then they made the average age like 12. I don't know what it is like now, but when I hit puberty around like 10 years old, um, the average age was around like 14. And that was a statistic that was actually real in my immediate surroundings. Like, none of my classmates, none of my batchmates had hit puberty, maybe like one or two. Like, yeah. And, hitting puberty was it was such a like taboo thing. Like, India is a very conservative society, but India is so conservative that I couldn't even talk about bleeding and having periods with anybody, and I was the only one experiencing it. Like I couldn't even talk to a girl about it. Like I tried once and then I just got bullied, dude. Like for real. And then I tried like a bunch of times again when like when some girls like started their periods for the first time, and then I got bullied even more. So I was like, fuck it, bro. Like I'll just survive it myself, I guess. And like, don't even get me started. It's still not fucking normal to talk about like your menstrual cycle. Like, bro, it's the most fucking natural thing every girl, every woman on this planet goes through. But it's not natural to talk about it. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, we bleed once a month. The bleed cycle is linked to the moon. There's different moods we experience, different energy levels we experience, different hormones and fluctuations within those that we experience on a monthly basis. We bleed once a month as women. Like, what the fuck? Like, I can't talk about that? Are you kidding me? And it's not just a thing like when I'm 23, like, now it's like fucking normalized for me. Like, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like, this is what I mean by Gen Z. Like, we being so fucking traumatized, but like, we acknowledge that we've been traumatized? Yeah, like, this shit's fucked up, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like, bro, like, don't even get me started on how men don't understand they don't understand the concept of bleeding once a month simply because they don't bleed once a month. And we live in a society where confirmation honks. The mic probably didn't pick that up. But yeah, we live in a society where men are not even fucking educated properly on what the fuck happens to women every month as a natural process of our biological cycles. So yeah, that okay. Completely lost my train of thought there. We'll go back to the doll theory. Essentially, what Teal Swan talks about is how this expectation of society to have children, to raise children, and have a home alongside working a 9 to 5 or larger number of hours job was the norm, or was the expectation. It's not like that expectation has changed in 2025 as I record this. I still get asked on a daily basis what it is that I do for a living, or where I got my degree from, or whatever the fuck. And here's what I have to say to all of that. To anyone watching, listening on audio, like I just flipped off the camera. I get paid to exist. That's what the answer to that is. Truly, truly, no, I'm not kidding. Like, yeah, and getting to this point has been a whole ass fucking spiritual journey for me. It's been a healing journey for me. It's been a manifestation journey for me. And all of these journeys are intertwined, like I talk about, on almost every episode of this podcast. Yeah, because it's been a journey of me looking inwards because that allowed me to realize that I am everything. And in doing so, it's been a very healing journey to say the least. As I tried to manifest a life of ease and abundance and joy. So yeah, those three journeys just intertwined, you know, for me. Yeah, if you're looking for guidance on how to escape the matrix, there we go. I didn't escape the matrix. I hacked the matrix, okay? If you're looking for guidance on finding your path, not even finding it, rather paving it, because there's multiple paths available to you at every present moment, because every present moment is infinite. If you're looking for guidance on that, I offer one-on-one sessions and one-on-one coaching. You can look in the description or show notes or whatever to find a link to it, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Alchemy with Sinhani on Instagram as well, and I can help you out. I can guide you through it. But yeah, it's not just me who can get paid to exist. Anyone can get paid to exist. And you don't have to be doing something to get paid to exist. That beats the whole purpose of it. I think there's a misconception with the idea of getting paid to exist as well. Like creators, digital creators, online business owners mostly are the ones talking about this. And that's the route I followed as well. And this just happened naturally because I'm just creative. I'm just naturally creative and artistic, and I believe that everyone is naturally creative and artistic. That's one way you can go. Post on social media. Y- Yeah, there's going to be fears of being seen. Yeah, there's going to be fears of being heard. Yeah, there's going to be fears of judgment, and that is exactly what I guide you through. Yeah, start an online business. That is definitely one way to go. But you don't have to do any of this. You don't have to be on social media to get paid to exist. The whole point is that you get paid to exist. So you can just exist. You don't have to exist on social media. But that is one way that you can do it, is what I'm trying to say. Because everyone, no matter who you are, has a story to share, to inspire, to create. Everyone is naturally artistic because our souls are naturally artistic. Our souls are naturally creative. We are creation, and we're always constantly creating. It's that cycle of creation and destruction. So, yeah, that's what's up. Getting a little comfy again. So, going back to I'm gonna bring the mic a little closer. Yeah, going back to the doll theory. This expectation of what society needs you to be in order to fit in. The expectation of having a degree, getting a job, a stable, high-paying job, as I said, um, starting your family, having children, and then putting them through the same fucked up shit is what it hints on. You could have guessed what the doll theory is by now. You haven't. We're the dolls, the children. Yeah, think about it. This is also why I think I talked about going outside and playing. Teal Swan talks about it in this way. She says how, as children, we play with dolls, we play with balls. Get your mind out the gutter. Yeah. um, what do we do as children with dolls and balls and other games when we're frustrated or annoyed when we don't get what we want? We start harming the doll, right? Like, okay, my own fucking experience. I was given a doll or a soft toy, like or something. I wanted something else. I ask my parents for it. They don't buy it for me. As a child, I throw a tantrum. How do I throw a tantrum? I harm the doll, right? I start pulling away its arms. I start like beating it up. I start like piercing it. I pull out like the stuffing inside the plushie, right? So just to get the attention of my parents to give me what I want as a child. And this ties into the idea of neglect or poor parenting in terms of using the rod. So it's like the trauma that my parents gave me, I gave to the doll, you know? And now substitute doll with a pet or substitute doll with my children. If I didn't heal this wound, if I didn't even first become aware of this and accept this, if I ever have children, what do you think I'm going to do? What do you think I'm going to do with my children when I'm frustrated and pissed off? My natural response is to harm a doll. This is not something I have changed. This is my conditioning pattern as a child. Obviously, I would start harming my children, right? And that's essentially what the doll theory is. We are fucked up because our parents were fucked up and they chose not to heal that. It's not their fault that they were fucked up or they are fucked up, but it is their fault that they chose not to heal that. Do you get what I'm saying? And then add the expectations of society to have children, right? So we became like guinea pigs to our parents, essentially, essentially, which is why we're also fucked up, which is why we all have childhood trauma. You know, I was watching Mufasa the other day, um, with some extended family, and so much of Mufasa touched upon childhood trauma. So much of it, so much of it. Like 80% of that movie talked about childhood trauma. So I'm glad that at least we're talking about it. Yeah, that's the first step, right? Awareness. Awareness, yeah. And then comes acceptance. Awareness can exist with denial as well, but at least we got to awareness, is what I'm saying. And, you know, I said I was watching this with extended family. It was at the time when my cousin from the US had come to visit along with my uncle. Yeah, read between the lines. I'm not going to spell it out for you. And my cousin is 8 years old. And he was watching Mufasa, you know, with me and another cousin and my uncle and my aunt. Yeah. So I'm glad at least he watched Mufasa, you know, somewhere in his awareness, it's floating around. Maybe he's watching this podcast. I hope not, because this is like explicitly rated. Not like he doesn't know what the fuck is up. Yeah, let's talk about this one. What is up with the kids? What is up with the kids? Like, all they're doing is scrolling. Don't get me wrong, I've scrolled too. I doom scroll too at times, but I catch that. I try to as much as possible whenever I catch it, I try to break the pattern. Uh, but you know, at least we were conditioned to doom scroll a little later than the newer generations are. Like, if I'm gonna be for real, the newest generation is doom scrolling at the age of 2 or 3. Like the second they can pick up a device, they are doom scrolling. So what the fuck? Like seriously, what the fuck is up? What is up? What has happened to humanity? And this is also why we all have why I say we all have ADHD. Like, we all have access to these devices. We all have access to unlimited, uninterrupted information, most of which, let me be for real, is bullshit. Yeah? Most of which is literally brain rot content. Like, the shorts on YouTube that perform the best are actually those brain rot shorts, which have absolutely no meaning. Literally, they are those brain rot shorts. Yeah, yeah, you know the ones. You watch the ones. So have I. Yeah, like, yeah, yeah, that's what's up. Like, since I've started posting content, I have noticed that I cannot consume and create content at the same time. Art is different in terms of, again, I can't consume and create art at the same time. I can't be listening to music and then create music at the same time. I'm either only listening to music or I'm creating music. Like, I have these phases where for months I'm only just listening to music. And then when I'm creating music, I can't listen to music anymore. It's um it's funny that I bring this up now because I was looking through some of my old files yesterday, because storage, and I found this one beat I had made 2 years ago. And since my rapper no longer exists on this plane of existence, I was like, fuck it, I'll rap over it. I started freestyling over it. And it was absolute fucking fire, by the way. Like, let me just say that. I was freestyling over it, and then I started rapping light language over it. Like, I was rapping light language. That is fucking insane. I don't think, at least I have not come across light language rap. So maybe that's something that I want to incorporate into my music. And yeah, that's just going to happen. So since I started recording this like last night, I worked on it a little bit. I was like, okay, this is fucking fire. Like, I'm actually gonna do this. Like, I was freestyling. I started making like I started writing it down. And yeah, no, I obviously I don't use rhyme sequencers. I don't use writers in my creative process. My creative process is 100% me. It's OG, like authenticity to the T. Yeah, yeah, essentially. Because I feel like this is what the world is missing right now. So maybe I'm the one that's bridging that gap, you know? Maybe. Maybe I'm the one inspiring other people to do the same thing. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know who's watching this and is inspired to launch their own podcast in this fucking format. Like, I'm literally just sitting on my bedroom floor, bro. Like, yeah, I don't have a fancy intro. Like, I was listening to this other podcast and there was like this fancy intro and there was like a little section in between with another like little, yeah, like, I mean, I could do that, but do I want to do that? Like, no, not really. Not really, not anymore. I've already done that shit. I've done that with the podcasts I've made in the past. I've done that with the finance podcast I launched. Personally, I've done that with the finance podcast I hosted for my college's finance club, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Yeah, I did that shit for like, yeah, I did it for like the other podcasts I've made. But I think this one I just want to keep like authentic, you know? Like, yeah, it sounds great. It sounds amazing. It sounds polished and shit. But like, this is something else. This vibe is just something else, man. There's something about this that I love, which is why I've been returning to it every fucking day. It's been 3 days in a row now. I'm gonna just check if we're still recording. Yeah, we are. And yeah, I don't think I ever want to stop this, you know? Like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing this. I'm just gonna keep posting these podcasts, making these podcasts and posting them whenever I feel like it. And right now we're on a 3 day streak, so let's fucking go. And this is something I want to touch base on creativity. Creativity just flows, like the flows, yeah. And what I was trying to say in terms of me making the flows, me writing my flows, like yeah, so I started writing down what I had freestyled. I had it recorded, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna note it down, jot it down. So I said not. Yeah, and I had it recorded on my DAW, my digital audio workstation, Logic Pro. I'm a Logic girly. I will fight you on why Logic is better than any other DAW, but each DAW has its own advantages, I guess. I guess. No, I mean, of course, each DAW has its own pros and cons, but I will stand by Logic because it's just easy, man. It's convenient. I have a Mac, so like it just works seamlessly. And yeah, that's it. Like it's just convenience. It's just a preference. Anyway, I tried to jot it down. I had it recorded. I tried to rap it again. It was not as good as the first take. It's just not. Like I think freestyling is just about freestyling. It has to be the OG, you know. It can't be like, yeah, written down. And I don't think I can even like maybe I can. Okay, maybe that's a limiting belief I have that I can't like write rhymes and then rap it. But there's something to the energy of freestyling, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and since this happened last night for me, like I hit this like creative breakthrough, right? I kind of haven't been able to listen to music. Like the only song I was listening to was like Tangerine by Glass Animals. Because I don't know, I think it was also playing at the start of the podcast episode yesterday. So when I went to edit it, I heard it again, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to that one. But yeah, since then I haven't really listened to music, and it's like afternoon today. By this point, I would have listened to a bunch of music. Like I'm the kind of musician and artist that listens to music all the time. Yeah. So I can't listen to music while I'm creating music. And it's that same idea of I can't consume when I'm creating. I'm either creating or I'm consuming. And it's sort of frustrating to me because I do want to listen to music, to other music, but I can't do both at the same time. Yeah. And I think a lot of us that are creatives in whichever way, artists, musicians, dancers, singers, rappers, content creators, and so on and on and on. Maybe we can seek inspiration from the world around us, but it becomes pause there because I can't find the words. But this feeling, like I'm just moving my hand, and becomes a little like a fucking like vortex you're sucked into when you're creating. Like there are other vortexes that exist and you can probably like tap in a little bit, but anything more than tapping in a little bit sort of pushes you out of this vortex of creativity. At least that's what my creative process is like. And if you're someone watching this who is creative in whichever form, you probably get what I'm saying. So yeah, that's the vibe. That's what's up. And you know, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get a little more comfy again and move the mic. Excuse me. Wow, we're at like 38 minutes already. 38:40 it is when I saw. Crazy. Crazy. I'm really fucking enjoying this, by the way. If you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this, follow, subscribe, rate this podcast 5 stars, share this to your friends, share this on your story if you're listening and you want to. But yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. And I want to talk a little bit about synchronicities now. So I talked about COVID and my theory of COVID and how I think it was biowarfare by the US in my first episode of Alchemy with Sinhani. Here's what I saw today. I don't listen to the news anymore. I don't read the news anymore. I don't follow the news anymore. If at all I see something, it's because somebody shared it on their story or something. Again, I don't scroll through stories a lot because I can't create and consume at the same time, that kind of idea. But I do see things like synchronicities again, right? Sometimes I do scroll. Yeah, it's not like I don't at all. Like anyone who's telling you that, by the way, that, you cannot consume when you create and that they don't consume at all. Like, I don't think that's true. Like, they do consume something, but it's minimal, is what they're probably trying to tell you. Yeah, it's not impossible to not consume, but it's closer to it's closer to consuming zero than actually consuming zero. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so I saw this on someone's story, and the only reason, like, I think I saw this story is because this was a friend of mine. Like, we became friends because of the internet, but yeah, yeah, yeah. We were in the same city. He's a rapper. If you listen to me, hi. And I had seen something else of his before I made the podcast. Something else that he had posted on his story, which sort of inspired me to talk about COVID on the podcast, like when I did. Like, yeah. And I was just like, we were just talking. Sometimes I'd see his stories and like reply. And I replied to the story saying, I have this strong ass fucking theory that the US started COVID. And it's obvious because, I mean, bro, they basically, like, the US just basically ringed up Mossad and was like, bro, Mossad, like, what do we do about China? And then Mossad was like, don't worry, bro, we got you. We got a bioweapon. We'll send it. And that's kind of how it happened, is my theory, to sum it all up. Yeah. Um, yeah, anyway, so I saw in his stories how there was another podcast which talks about, military intelligence and sea theories and all theories as they exist in public domain. Or don't, I don't know the show. So uh anyway, it's like a snippet from the show, and the dude is like, he's a scientific um like sea theory uncoverer, but also like he won't just blatantly say shit. Like, he properly scientifically word it and shit. Like, not this form of communication is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is very informal. This is very Gen Z form of communication. Like, his was more like structured, like, yeah, 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 like sciencey, like that. Yeah, I don't even know what his name was. Is, yeah, and he was talking about how the CIA actually accepted that they had a role to play in COVID. No, 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 no. The CIA, the US's public military intelligence, accepting on a public domain that they had some role to play, whatever this was. I'm paraphrasing here, okay? But essentially, they accepted that they had some role to play in COVID, whatever that may be. If that is what is being pushed out into public domain, I ask you again, do you really think that COVID was just a random ass fucking pandemic? I'm just going to leave it at that. But the synchronicity of this, the timing of this, is what really fucking blew my mind. Because I was just on here, I was talking about shit, and like, this friend and I were chatting, and then I was talking to him about this, and then he was like, he agreed, and, not agreed essentially, but like, he saw the perspective I was coming from, rather. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, so just the synchronicity of it all just, yeah, yeah, that sort of blew my mind. And like, I'm used to synchronicities, okay? It's what I think. It's what I think. But then every time something like this happens, I'm just like, yo, what the fuck? This shit is pretty fucking insane. Yeah, and I want to deny synchronicities. I'm the kind of person, I'm a Gemini rising, if that helps put it into perspective. I went to law school, if it helps put it into perspective. I studied science, if it helps put it into perspective. But I'm the kind of person that questions everything. If someone says something to me, I'll be like, why? If someone says something is a fact, I'll be like, why? If someone says the earth revolves around the sun, I'll say, why? Show me proof. If someone says the earth is flat, I would say, why? Show me proof. If someone says the earth is round, I would say, why? Show me proof. Right? Like I'm that kind of person. That's just who I am on a conscious mind level. So, you know, despite being spiritual, despite being a spiritual coach, despite being psychic, being a medium, being a channel, my journey has just been like, what the fuck? Because at some point, no matter how much I questioned it or denied it would present itself back to me. And it would only present itself back to me with more concrete proof. Like, I look at science, I look at angel numbers. Like, just now, there was a little fly that flew around that I took note of in my awareness. And that may seem like a random event, but there's another fly right now, just as I speak. And there are no coincidences. Like these things that seem like coincidences are also not coincidences. These are all synchronicities. Everything is a synchronicity, right? So, as much as I wanted to deny that, like as much as I wanted to deny that fly, like, and not talk about it, there goes another fly. Like, just you get what I'm saying, seeing and saying. Like, the more I try to deny it, the stronger it presents itself to me. And now, just now, a big ass fucking eagle just whooshed past my window. So, yeah, I want to deny these synchronicities. The birds are chirping outside. But the more I try to deny it, the stronger it presents itself to me, you know. And that's kind of what my journey has been like. So, yeah, if you're someone seeing a lot of synchronicities and you're pissed off and you're like, yeah, no, none of this shit is real. Maybe it's just all in my head. Deny it and see what happens. Yeah, that's what's up. I'm gonna leave this at that. And I have no idea what I'm gonna title this episode either. Um, if you like this podcast, rate this 5 stars wherever you're seeing this. If you can, leave me a comment if you're watching me on YouTube. So I know you're here. Like this podcast, subscribe, follow, do the whole shebang. If you're looking for personal guidance on your spiritual journey, your healing journey, your manifestation journey, if you're looking for guidance through divination, tarot, oracles, runes, crystals, if you're looking for personal spells, all of these are available on my stand store. I hope my stand store is my stand store whenever you're watching this. Uh, you can find that wherever the links are allowed to be, or you can find that on my Instagram at Alchemy with Sinhani. I'm also on YouTube at Alchemy with Sinhani. See you until next time.